The first sign of trouble came in the form of a group text 3 days before my brother Westin's engagement dinner. I was sitting at my desk, buried in client paperwork, when my phone lit up with his message. Can't wait to see everyone Friday. Talia's invited a few more friends to join us. It's getting to be quite the party. My husband Reed glanced over from the couch where he was reviewing contracts. What's that about? Westin says Talia's invited more people to their engagement dinner, I replied, a small knot forming in my stomach. The dinner had already expanded from immediate family to extended family to family friends. Who else could she possibly be adding? I adored my younger brother, but his fiancée Talia Vega was complicated. Beautiful, ambitious, and exceedingly conscious of appearances, she'd swept into Westin's life 6 months ago and promptly rearranged everything. His apartment, his wardrobe, his social circle, and apparently now, our family traditions. My phone pinged again with another message, this time directly from Talia. Brenley, I hope you don't mind, but I added Vanessa to the dinner. She and I were college roommates, and I've just reconnected with her. You might remember her? Vanessa Winters? The knot in my stomach tightened into a full twist. Of course I remembered Vanessa Winters. She and Reed had dated seriously for 2 years before we met. Their breakup had been messy, public, and the subject of gossip throughout our social circle for months afterward. There was no way Talia didn't know this. I showed Reed the message, watching his expression shift from relaxed to tense in seconds. She can't be serious, he said, setting aside his papers. Why would Talia invite Vanessa to a family dinner? They weren't even that close in college. This was true. Talia and Vanessa had shared a dorm room freshman year but had run in different circles afterward. They certainly weren't the type of friends who'd stayed in touch for the 7 years since graduation. Should I say something? I asked, already composing potential responses in my head, none of them particularly polite. Reed sighed, running a hand through his dark hair, a gesture I'd come to recognize as his processing signal. If you object, it will look like we're still bothered by ancient history. And if we don't, we have to sit through an entire dinner with your ex while celebrating my brother's engagement, I countered. An engagement to someone who clearly doesn't mind creating awkward situations. Maybe that's the point, Reed said quietly. To create drama. I couldn't disagree. In the 6 months I'd known her, Talia had demonstrated a talent for engineering social scenarios that centered attention on herself while subtly undermining others. The backhanded compliments about my practical career as a physical therapist. The comments about how Westin's family was so charmingly traditional compared to her cosmopolitan upbringing. The way she'd casually mentioned Reed's Playboy past at a family barbecue last month. Still, inviting Reed's ex-girlfriend to a family celebration felt like crossing a line even for Talia. I typed out a response, deleted it, then tried again. That's surprising. I didn't realize you and Vanessa were still close. It might be a bit awkward since she and Reed have history. Talia's reply came almost instantly. Ancient history. Vanessa is totally over it, and I'm sure Reed is too. It's just dinner. I'd really appreciate having one of my oldest friends there to support me as I meet more of Westin's extended family. Please don't make this weird, Brenley. The passive-aggressive emoji was the cherry on top of this manipulation sundae. What do you think? I asked Reed, showing him the exchange. He shrugged, though the tension in his shoulders told me he was more bothered than he wanted to admit. It's your brother's night. If making a fuss will create more drama, maybe we just power through it. One uncomfortable dinner won't kill us. Easy for him to say. Reed had always been better at compartmentalizing than I was, a skill he'd honed as a corporate attorney. I, on the other hand, tended to wear my emotions plainly, a trait my mother called refreshing, and my father called politically unwise. Fine, I replied to Talia's message. Looking forward to Friday. I set my phone down, the knot in my stomach undiminished. Something about this felt deliberate, calculated. Talia wasn't the type to do anything without a reason, and I couldn't shake the feeling that inviting Vanessa was less about friendship and more about something else entirely. What I didn't know then was just how right that instinct would prove to be, and how dramatically Friday's dinner would alter the course of my brother's future. Are you going to tell me what really happened between you and Vanessa? I asked Reed that night as we were getting ready for bed. The question had been hovering unspoken between us since Talia's text. Reed paused, toothbrush halfway to his mouth. You know what happened. We dated in law school. It didn't work out. I know the outline, I conceded, leaning against the bathroom doorframe. But there's got to be more to the story if Talia thinks inviting her will create tension. He sighed, finished brushing his teeth, and turned to face me. It's not particularly interesting. We wanted different things. I was focused on corporate law, stable career path. She wanted international human rights law, constant travel, fundamental incompatibility. That doesn't explain why she keyed your car after you broke up, I pointed out. The infamous scratch down the side of Reed's first-year associate splurge, a modest Audi, had been the talk of their law firm. She was going through a lot, he said diplomatically. The breakup was just the trigger, not the cause. This protective response was classic Reed. Even when someone wronged him, he looked for the most generous interpretation of their behavior. It was one of the qualities I loved about him, and occasionally found infuriating. There's something you're not telling me, I pressed, recognizing the slight aversion of his eyes that always accompanied selective disclosure. Reed dried his hands slowly, clearly weighing his words. It's not that interesting, Bren. There was someone else. On her side, not mine, he added quickly. She'd been seeing one of the partners at her summer internship firm. Married guy, of course. And you found out? I suspected, confronted her. She denied it, then admitted it, then blamed me for being emotionally unavailable, which drove her to seek connection elsewhere. His tone was matter of fact, but I could see the lingering hurt in his eyes. When I ended things, she didn't take it well. Hence the car. I processed this new information. And you never told me because it's ancient history that has nothing to do with us, he said, pulling me into a hug. I met you 6 months later, and nothing that came before matters. I melted into his embrace, comforted by his certainty, but still troubled by the situation. It matters if we have to sit across from her at my brother's engagement dinner, while she exchanges meaningful glances with Talia. Reed pulled back to look at me. Why would they exchange meaningful glances? I don't know, I admitted, but Talia's up to something. She always is. The next day, I decided to do some reconnaissance. Westin and I had always been close, despite the 4-year age gap between us. Before Talia, we'd spoken several times a week. Now our interactions were mostly limited to group settings or hurried phone calls that mysteriously ended when Talia entered the room. I called him during my lunch break, thankful when he actually answered. Hey, big sis. What's up? His voice sounded cheerful, if slightly distracted. Just checking on dinner plans for Friday, I said casually. Looks like it's going to be quite the gathering. Yeah, it kind of snowballed. Talia wants to introduce everyone all at once rather than in smaller groups. More efficient, she says. He laughed, though it sounded a bit forced. Including Reed's ex-girlfriend? I couldn't help asking. There was a pause. What? Who? Vanessa Winters. Talia invited her, said they were college roommates. Another pause, longer this time. I didn't know about that. Are you okay with it? Is Reed? The genuine confusion in his voice confirmed what I'd suspected. Talia hadn't consulted him about the guest list. We'll manage, I said. I'm more concerned about why she's inviting someone with that kind of history to what's supposed to be an intimate family celebration. I'm sure she has her reasons, Westin said, but he sounded uncertain. Maybe they really are close friends. Maybe, I allowed, though we both knew better. Just keep your eyes open, Wes. Something feels off about this. You've never really given Talia a chance, he said, a defensive note creeping into his voice. She's trying to build relationships with the people I care about. That includes your husband. There are ways to build relationships that don't involve creating awkward situations, I pointed out. Just promise me you'll talk to her about it? Fine, he sighed. But please don't make a scene on Friday. This dinner is important to her, to us. When have I ever made a scene? I asked, genuinely offended. Christmas 2018, he replied promptly. You told Aunt Martha her fruitcake tasted like sweetened cardboard. That was honesty, not a scene, I protested. And she improved the recipe. We both laughed, the tension momentarily broken. As we hung up, I felt marginally better about the situation, but the nagging suspicion remained. Talia was setting a stage, and somehow Vanessa was part of her script. What I didn't realize was just how elaborate that script would turn out to be, or that I would end up delivering the most unexpected lines of all. 2 days before the dinner, I was rummaging through my closet, trying to find the perfect outfit that said, confident and unbothered by my husband's ex, when my phone rang. The screen displayed a number I didn't recognize. Hello? I answered cautiously. Is this Brenley Harlow? A woman's voice asked. Yes, who's this? It's Morgan Chen. We met at the hospital fundraiser last month. I'm friends with Vanessa Winters. I sat down on the edge of the bed, instantly alert. Yes, I remember. What can I do for you? There was a slight hesitation. This is awkward, but I felt like I needed to give you a heads up. Vanessa's been telling people she's attending your brother's engagement dinner this weekend. That's unfortunately true, I confirmed. My future sister-in-law invited her. Right. The thing is, Morgan paused again. Vanessa's been saying it's because your husband wants to reconnect with her, that they've been texting, and this dinner is a convenient excuse. I felt a cold tingle spread across my skin. That's absolutely not true. I didn't think so, Morgan said quickly. Vanessa has a history of embellishing reality. especially when it comes to Reed. That's why I called. I thought you should know what's being said. I appreciate that, I said, mind racing. Is there anything else I should know? Just that Vanessa and your brother's fiancé have been meeting up a lot lately. Like, several times a week? It seemed odd given they weren't particularly close in college. After thanking Morgan and ending the call, I sat motionless, processing this new information. Reed had never given me reason to doubt him, and I trusted him completely. But Vanessa's fabrication, combined with Talia's suspicious behavior, painted a troubling picture. I called my friend Audra, who worked at the same downtown law firm as Talia, though in a different department. I need intel, I said without preamble when she answered. What's the word on Talia at the office lately? Interesting timing, Audra replied. There have been whispers about her and that senior partner she works closely with, Julian Reeves. Whispers like what? I asked, although I could already guess. Like closed-door meetings that run late, expensive lunches, the usual cliches. Audra lowered her voice. Last week, his wife showed up unannounced at the office. There was quite a scene at reception. I closed my eyes, pieces starting to click into place. Is this Julian married with kids? The whole picture-perfect setup? 3 kids and a house in the suburbs, Audra confirmed. Why? What's going on? I filled her in on Vanessa's invitation and Morgan's call. That's bizarre, Audra agreed. Why would Talia want your husband's ex at a family dinner? Unless she's trying to create a distraction, I finished. Something dramatic enough to overshadow any potential rumors about her own indiscretions. After hanging up, I sat with this theory, turning it over in my mind. It made a certain calculated sense. If Talia was worried about whispers regarding her relationship with Julian, what better smokescreen than rekindling old drama between Reed and Vanessa? I debated whether to tell Reed about Morgan's call. On one hand, I didn't want to unnecessarily worry him. On the other, he deserved to know what he might be walking into on Friday. In the end, transparency won out. When he got home that evening, I recounted both conversations. Reed listened without interrupting, his expression growing increasingly troubled. I haven't texted Vanessa, he said firmly when I finished. I haven't had any contact with her in years. I know, I assured him. I never thought you had. He ran a hand through his hair. That processing gesture again. So you think Talia invited Vanessa to create some kind of diversion from her own affair? It's a theory, I admitted, but it's the only one that makes sense of all these pieces. Reed paced our living room, visibly agitated. We should tell Westin. He deserves to know what he's getting into with her. I hesitated. We don't have actual proof of anything, just rumors and speculation. Weston's already defensive about Talia. If we come at him with this, he might cut us off entirely. So what's your plan? We just go to this dinner and pretend everything's normal while Vanessa spreads lies about me and Talia potentially cheats on your brother? It was a fair question, and one I'd been struggling with myself. I think we go, keep our eyes open, and handle whatever comes as a united front. If there's an opportunity to privately warn Westin, we take it. But we don't create a scene. Reed looked skeptical, but eventually nodded. All right, but if Vanessa says anything suggesting we've been in contact, I'm setting the record straight immediately. Fair enough, I agreed. As Friday approached, I found myself mentally rehearsing various scenarios, how to greet Vanessa civilly but coolly, what to say if she made insinuations about Reed, how to watch Talia for signs of guilt or manipulation. I was so focused on these interpersonal chess moves that I completely missed the most critical piece of information, one that would change everything about how the evening unfolded. Until, that is, I received a text from an unknown number the morning of the dinner. I have proof about Talia and Julian. Check your email. You might want this for tonight. A friend in my inbox was a single video file and a message. Filmed at the Archer Hotel bar last week. That's your brother's fiancé with my husband. I thought your family should know before the wedding plans go any further. I pressed play, my heart pounding, and watched as the grainy security footage revealed exactly what I'd feared, and more than I'd expected. The private dining room at Bellini's hummed with conversation as 20 people gathered around an elegant table. I sat between Reed and my cousin, uncomfortably aware of Vanessa across from us, striking in a red dress clearly chosen to draw attention. Talia presided at the head of the table beside Westin, radiant in designer white, playing the perfect hostess. The video evidence weighed heavily on my mind. I'd shown Reed immediately, and we'd spent hours debating what to do. Tell Westin privately? Confront Talia? In the end, we decided to wait and observe, knowing a hasty move could backfire. But watching Talia laugh as she touched Weston's arm possessively, while simultaneously catching Julian's eye across the table. Yes, she'd invited her married lover too, introducing him as a mentor from work. I felt my resolve weakening. Halfway through dinner, Vanessa made her move. Reed, you look amazing. she gushed, leaning forward. Those late-night conversations didn't do you justice. Reed froze mid-bite. Excuse me? Oh. She feigned embarrassment, glancing at me. Was that supposed to be our little secret? The table quieted. I noticed Talia hide a satisfied expression behind her wine glass. There haven't been any conversations, Vanessa, Reed said firmly. Not for years. Don't be shy, she persisted. Talia mentioned you've been feeling nostalgic lately. And there it was, the confirmation of their coordinated plan. I met Talia's eyes, saw the cool calculation there, and knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. Westin stood, oblivious to the undercurrents. Since everyone's here, I'd like to make a toast to my beautiful fiancé. Actually, I said, rising to my feet, champagne in hand, I'd like to say something first. Reed squeezed my knee in warning, but I was beyond caution now. To new beginnings, I started, voice steady despite my racing heart, and to honesty. Family is built on trust, which is why I feel compelled to share something important. Talia's smile faltered. Westin looked confused. This morning, I received evidence that Talia has been involved in a relationship with someone else. I continued carefully. Security footage from the Archer Hotel shows her with Julian here, her married mentor who she's been seeing privately for months. Surprised murmurs circled the table. Julian paled visibly. Talia's expression hardened. That's not true, she insisted. The timestamp on the video says otherwise, I replied calmly, as does the hotel receipt I found when I looked into it further. Room 712, last Tuesday afternoon. Weston's face had drained of color. Talia, is this true? Her silence was answer enough. You arranged this entire dinner as a distraction, I continued, looking between Talia and Vanessa. Invited Reed's ex to create confusion, spread stories about conversations that never happened, all to divert attention from your own relationship with Julian. How dare you? Talia responded, her composure completely gone now. I'm sorry you're upset, but the evidence is clear, I said, turning to my brother. I'm sorry, Wes. I have the video if you need to see it. Weston stood slowly, placed his napkin on the table, and walked out without another word. I looked at Talia. I wish things could have been different. As uncomfortable silence fell over the room, Reed took my hand under the table and squeezed it supportively. Some truths need to be spoken, even when difficult, especially when they protect the people we love from greater pain down the road.